Have you ever wondered what goes bump in the night? What could be lurking round the corner? What shadows are waiting for us in the dark? Why we feel like we are being watched by the mysterious eyes of an unknown entity? When all rational explanations have been exhausted, it only leaves one explanation: the paranormal. Take a journey into the realm of the paranormal with your hosts, Damon Penny and Ben Winfield. We explore all things paranormal, from mediums to apparitions, from orbs to the occult, from demons to angels, and everything in between. So strap in and join us as we explore into the unknown. And don't forget, things can get a little strange. The Other Dimension Show on Pulse Talk Radio.
Welcome everybody. It's the Other Dimension Show here right again. Saturday night, it's Pulse Talk Radio, and you know it's time to get your paranormal fix. And boy, have we got a show for you this week. Absolutely amazing. We're joined by special guests this week, the paranormal power couple known as Kay and Craig Maloney, and we've got a competition for you guys. But until we get to that, you know I've got to bring him on. The man, the myth, the legend. Some say he once sold Satan the wrong size shoes. It is Mr. Ben Winfield. Welcome along, my friend.
You know what? He's still never forgiven me for that.
Now, it's been a busy week for me and you. We've had some big developments, haven't we?
Oh God, yes.
Yes. We now officially have a Discord. So if you want to speak to us in the studio, you want to get your questions over, or questions over to our special guests, all you have to do, head over to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/TOD Paranormal. And the link's there. Join the Discord server. It comes straight through to us here at the studio. And that's how we roll.
Right.
And also, the big one, we now have a Patreon, don't we?
Yeah. Yes, we're one full episode already on there.
Yeah. Well, with the Patreon, guys, you can follow. Yeah, you can follow us. All right. But also, if you want to help with the show, we are offering a bonus episode every week, and all you have to do is pledge £3 to the Patreon. So if you want to do that, head over www.patreon.com/The Other Dimension. Honestly, guys, these bonus shows, banging. The first one we just done on Thursday got released on Friday. Absolute banging. Really enjoyed the conversation.
It's always fun, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
just
mate.
Drop little bits of more information on you. Plus, you get to see what we're like backstage. You get to see it on a normal, regular chat.
100%. Now, if you're sort of questioning why Ben's a bit distorted and a bit like sort of meh, he's actually out on investigation with next week's guests.
Yep, Mystic Paranormal.
Oh yeah. He's what he doesn't realise is I sent him ahead to scout these guys out.
Didn't feel like it at the minute. Sorry, you may hear a train passing.
That's all good. Now, I think it's about time we get into the show. So let's welcome on the paranormal power couple known as Kay and Craig Maloney. Welcome along, guys.
Hello, thank you for having us.
No, thank you for coming on. It's great you taking the time out to come onto the show. I've sort of bigged it up, and I want to give the listeners out there, everyone that's listening to Pulse Talk Radio, I want them to sort of know you guys, because what you do is great.
Thank you. We really love it, don't we? We wouldn't be, our work is for people. It's to help.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I have to admit,
let's start. Sorry, Ben.
This as well. Sorry, I'm going to say, I have to admit, I've been looking forward to this as well, because this is a subject that I've not really touched on much.
Definitely. I mean, first time I had a meeting with Kay on the old shows, it sort of like was like she gave me the reading and it was like bang on. I was like, wow. But Kay Craig, tell us what you do and tell us how we can get hold of you for the listeners out there before we actually get into the conversation.
Well, predominantly it's on, we do something called Lifting the Veil, and that is basically Craig's an ITC specialist and I'm a clairsentient medium. So we bring together the two specialists in one area. So we set the live up and we have the live stream where people can comment. And what we do is it's a shared consciousness collective. So we get people to kind of ask their loved ones to step across and speak to us. So they either come and speak to me, mediumistically, or they come through via the ITC equipment. And the idea is that if I don't pick up on them and there's a name on the screen, we say the name and then we get the interactions via the voice. But the actual basis of it, and I'm going to hand you over to Craig, comes from a gentleman named Marcello Bacchi.
That's it, yeah.
And
So I've been interested in ITC, which is instrumental transcommunication, for close to probably 20 years now. I've been experimenting in various different ways of doing it, and my main inspiration, as Kay said, was an Italian man named Marcello Bacchi. And from around about 1974, he was using radios at the time, which were old World War II radios, which ran on, they were valve radios, so they heated up and they got very hot and that kind of thing. And inside of them were basically small valves. Now, these valves, that was the only way that the radio was able to work. And somehow he was able to have voices come through the radio at the very, very lowest range, where no signals are picked up whatsoever, and he was able to bring full conversations with not only his friends who had passed on, but after a while it turned into like every week he would be going live basically at the same time, and the families of dead ones, relatives, would turn up, and they would say to him, like, I'm here for, and he would say to them, I don't need to know who you're here for. If someone's here to speak to you, they will come through the radio. And it would happen. And through the research, it's over the 40 years now, people have pretty much came to the same conclusion that it was actually Marcello Bacchi, who was an amazing psychic medium. And he was using his own mediumistic powers in conjunction with the radio, which was allowing the spirits to speak through the frequencies on the radio. So that's been a huge thing for me for close on 20 years. And then we just sat down one night and said, you know what, we could do this and we could bring this to people nowadays. So that's the history of Lifting the Veil, really. It's a mixing of modern ITC with a modern radio. I say a modern radio, it's still a radio from the 70s. And it's used in conjunction with Kay's mediumistic skills. So it's pretty much what Marcello Bacchi was doing, but it's just brought up to date. Oh, okay.
Go on, Damon.
Go on. You go first, Ben. You go first. Go on.
It sounds a lot like what Nikola Tesla was doing in the 40s.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. They're all linked.
Yeah.
They're all linked together. All of the people who we all know and we've all heard about, they all had exactly the same thoughts. And and it goes all the way back to like 1895 with Marconi. Yeah. He produced this little piece of equipment, and almost immediately people were saying, we believe that we can use this as a way of contacting spirits, and it went from Marconi, it moved on to like Thomas Edison, and then, as you said, the other famous people, and it just goes on, and that's, that leads up to the EVP and the way that we use EVP nowadays. That all comes from that one initial Marconi transmission in 1895.
Yeah,
that's quite interesting, that is.
Yeah, it is. Definitely, 100%. I mean, when people say ITC to me, I was completely oblivious to it, but now you sort of explained it in that way, it sort of makes sense. It's almost like an extreme EVP session, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. It's basically the use of any type of almost like electrical equipment to be able to speak to the dead. That's a nice that's an easy explanation of what the ITC is. So it can be static, it can be radios, it can be TV, it can be just recording through digital recorders now, it can be tape recorders.
Expanded up into a crystal ball as well, where we use the crystal ball and we use a visual, and in that we have been getting faces and shapes, and at one point it looked like we were actually flying through a valley, didn't it?
Yeah, it was quite
and it was giving off its own energy field. So we are kind of looking at expanding, and that ball comes from kind of the basis of Solomon's magic, kind of pre-Bible, where it was all about energy and kind of using almost your own energy to come up with a conclusion for communication.
I mean, Solomon stuff, that's you, Ben. You know a lot about the Solomon stuff, don't you?
Yeah, it sounds like to put it in like basic terms, it sounds like you've created an interface for the veil in a sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Which is really impressive, to be honest.
Yeah, well, we wanted to do something different as well, because we wanted it not to be about us. We were very, very kind of strict from the word go that it was going to be for a fully interactive thing, and all we more or less do is moderate the comments and guide the experiment, and everything else is about the people that watch to try and get them involved, and the more involved they are, basically all we're there for is to time run, and for me to do the mediumship, and for Craig to make sure that the batteries and that the equipment's working.
Brilliant.
I might have a dive through my stuff, see if there's anything I can send you that could actually help with that. Now, knowing what you've done, I'll see if I can help in any way, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. See, look, I've done it again. I'm bringing people together. This is great. Before we go any further, sorry, mate. Before we go any further, I've got to send a massive shout out to Kinks and Liam Wright. Also, out to my mum and my brother, my auntie, my uncle, and Eleanor, who are locked in tonight. It's great to have them all locked in. Now, when we talk about Kay's sort of role with this ITC sort of thing, is she there to sort of boost the energies, or is she there to sort of, almost entice them to come through?
Both, really, because I do my rituals beforehand. I've got the same rituals that I do before a reading, and then we also use crystals, so the clear quartz and the selenite. And I've also used the chakra crystals, so I kind of charge the energy up like a battery as well as myself, and then I actually sit with my radio and touch the radio and have physical contact with the radio. The same with the crystals and anything that's going to be used, so when we go live it's already tuned into me, and what they say is the longer that you work with a piece of equipment, it fine-tunes to your own frequencies and your own ratio of energy. That's
the thing, like everybody's got that inbuilt ability for mediumship, just some of us can't. We can't pick up on it every day like Kay does. But with my equipment, like the Valve radio, I've been running the same experiment now for 14 months almost. So every night at the same time, I go down to the lowest frequency range that there is, where there's nothing on there whatsoever, and there's literally nothing down there. And I sit there for an hour every night, and I basically just have a little play there. I ask the same questions, like I said, at the same time, and the theory being that the spirits get used to me being there at the same well, I wouldn't so much say the same time, but the same how would you explain it? It's like the joint energy. It's like whatever time it is there compared to whatever time it is now. That joins up, and that and they'll say like, right, well, I think Craig's going to be on there, and I've made contact with someone who I believe I speak to on a regular basis, who kind of does the same job on the other side as what I do this side. So they're kind of like an ITC specialist almost on that side. They arrange for the people to be there to speak to us. And and like I said, that's what I've been running that experiment for almost 14 months now. And then when we do it, they know
because of the rules of the house. It's really, really funny. They come through the front door.
Yeah.
So I'll always sit nearest the door, and then they know that they take it in turns to queue up. And then I'll go, right, okay. And they queue up actually in what order they want to speak in, and whatever order the voices come through. So it almost is like a simultaneous exchange that's happening, but they all know that it's working at the same point, working to the same level.
Brilliant. It's almost like the post office, where they go like, cash number 4, please.
Yeah. and then you sometimes get what I call a few like queue dodgers. But usually, if we don't have anybody that jumps the queue, it's usually because they go, "Oh, I didn't know that I could speak last week," or "I came through to you when you were doing a reading last week, and it wasn't for the person, and you said that if I came back now, that somebody might be able to connect to me." And that's how I do it. I try and link the two together as best as I can.
Yeah,
brilliant. I mean, question for both of you. Now, it's something that's sort of been playing on my mind for a little while. Because when I first started like ghost hunting and things like that, I sort of believed that spirits sort of inhabit our world. But I've come to this conclusion over time with the demonic studies, and that I'm sort of diving into occultology as well, is that we all live in different dimensions. We have different dimensional beings that live on different planes, but we all, the time all sort of runs congruent to what we are in now. I mean, is that what you guys believe? Do you believe you're contacting spirits from another dimension, or do you believe that the spirits are here in our world?
No, I mean, I've had the same thought for close to, like I said, probably 10 years now, that we're all running in parallel dimensions. So, for me personally, time was developed by us. It was developed for the trains to be on time in Victorian times, etc. And I believe that the time that we're living in now, it's classed as 2021. Now, there may be a parallel dimension which started, 10 years before us, or 10 years prior to us, or, 200 years, whatever. So somewhere else, it's actually the Victorian times now. So I believe that we go to a place where it's an old Victorian manor house, for instance. We go there and we see the full-bodied apparition of a Victorian child or a Victorian lady, for instance, walking past. Now, I don't believe that we're seeing almost like a spirit that's there now. I believe that those parallel dimensions, they cross over just for that millisecond. And we see that, but for them, that is their time. That is the Victorian times. It's 1890, and and I've always believed that, and I think that's why, I've been very lucky. I've seen lots of things. I've seen full-bodied apparitions, but I know people who've been doing paranormal investigations for 30, 40 years. They've never seen anything like that, and I think it is literally a time and the place. Type of thing. For someone like me who's not mediumistic, I literally think it's a time and a place, because I've been to, some of the most haunted places in the UK, and I've come out of them thinking, well, that was a waste of money and that was a waste of time. I've seen nothing, but I know that place is famous all over the world for full-bodied apparitions, but I just wasn't in the right time and place.
I mean, you need to go on an investigation with Ben, because he just like conjures up things out of the blue.
Wonderful.
Well, when you come to time in cultology, time is irrelevant. Time is a human concept.
Absolutely.
It's only humanity has created time. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Now, when you come into science theory, even scientists have a theory of, I can't remember the name of the particle. But there's a particle that goes backwards and forwards in time.
Yeah.
And they reckon there's a theory that that's what this could be, that this is how connections happen within the cultology.
Yeah, that's it. Well, that's the thing. It's you've got you've got quantum tunneling. You've got all those types of things. Now, if the vibrations are off, then those, what we presume are people walking through walls, solid walls, to them, that isn't a solid wall. And using the quantum theory and quantum tunneling theory, they're able to go through there because they're not in this dimension. So because they're slightly off, they're able to pass through solid walls and things like that.
Yeah, you've got the time, you've got like stone tape theory, that sort of thing. Like a building layout can change over the years. So what building, how it lays out to us could be different to how it's laid out to them in their time slot.
Absolutely, yeah.
Same as I've done a few readings, and I've come off a reading and I've said the person that's come through, their energy and I see lights and I get feelings, and their vibration in the room is different to the vibration of what I would class as someone who would what we class as past. So it's even for me, it's making me question, well, in a sense, although I can pick up on past, am I just, like I said, picking up on that vibrational shift where it's at its most powerful?
Yeah.
And, you know, we're just kind of linking up with kind of everything that's out there, so the universal energy as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, 100%. Me and Ben have had numerous conversations on the show when it comes to interdimensional beings, whether these demonics are spirit or something from a different realm or a higher consciousness. I mean, when we talk about consciousness, Kay, you spend a lot of time working with consciousness, because we spoke on a previous show about Carl Jung and his believing in hiring your consciousness enables you to sort of communicate with spirit in sort of like a different way. I mean,
it's a shame really, because not a lot of people know that Carl Jung actually was really interested in the esoteric studies and the occult studies, and he was actually quite open. If you took a theory, he was actually quite open to any theory. You know, people quite know him as psychologist and behavioural and the psyche, but he was actually pushing beyond what we call like textbook psychology, wasn't he, as well?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he was on the sort of lines that, you know, by hiring your consciousness, that everything around us is based on consciousness, you know, and by hiring your consciousness, you're able to become more aware of the spirit world, become more aware of the other dimensions around us. I mean, they talk about 3D, 4D and 5D, them being the three different dimensions that you sort of can access. And he was talking about expanding the consciousness to be able to contact the 5D for these sort of seraphim, cherubim, you know, the Anunnaki, the archons and stuff like that. I mean, with Kabbalistic work, you sort of you label it up as Kabbalistic work. What's the difference between a Kabbalistic medium and a traditional medium?
For me, it is kind of the best way to describe it in simple terms is we just see ourselves as the vessel. We are not the ego. We are not the body. We literally are. It makes sense, you know, when people say the soul in the vessel. So we transcend this physical body. And particularly when I work, it is all about you link into that person's energy, and there's an actual physical exchange of energy. So I will actually feel that person's battery, if that makes sense. I will take in some of that energy. And also as well, because as we go through, when we're learning, when we go through the tree of life and go through the Sephiroth and the Sephiroth, as some people say, we uncover different parts and different deities. So it is also dependent upon what deity and kind of what level you're at. So for me, last time we spoke, I was heavily into Buddhism. I'm now kind of moving past that. And now I've kind of gone more in the Sikh direction, to Sikhism, the Sikh mantras. So for me at the moment, anybody that comes for a reading from me now, you will find it will be very kind of, the imagery for me will be very kind of Sikh based, if that makes sense. So for me, it's from deity to deity and energy to energy. And the other thing is that we are from a long line of ancestry where, because it's taught orally and it's not in textbooks, and it's not kind of, you can't just pick up a tarot deck and proclaim yourself a medium. You have to be chosen. So I didn't know what the 8 to 9 years ago when I started this, I had someone that was doing Kabbalism and she never taught, and she met me, she came across the room and said, I have been called to come to you. Do you know that this is going to be your life's path? And that's the difference. We don't choose that. The people that come forward to share their gifts are chosen by the universe. 100%.
I mean, Ben, when you sort of done in your studies, have you come across, like, obviously this thing where you have these deities that sort of work in different religions, but they're almost like the same. Does that make sense? Or has he disappeared?
Yeah, I have to remember I deal with deities from every.
Yeah, go on. Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
It's right. Just as I was talking, my foot went loose and I went down another rock. You have to remember, the problem with demonology and cultology is everyone thinks it's restricted to Christianity, and it's not. We're restricted to the universe, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
We deal with every deity going.
Yeah.
And the way you've just said that lady approached you and said, this is it, this is how I'm going to teach, I'm now teaching you. I used to teach certain people. But unless I get told by, as crazy as it sounds, unless I've been told by higher up that I'm going to teach these people, I won't do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So almost like an unspoken rule, as if they've done it before and they've now come to this life and you've had to refine them to continue.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I think Lorraine Warren and Ed Warren said that everybody's clairvoyant up to the age of 12. It just depends how you sort of approach things after, whether you carry on that clairvoyance. But with Craig, with your ITC stuff, I mean, can it work on visual aids as well? You know, like when people use the untuned TVs. That's part of ITC as well. That's just visual. So I tend to concentrate on audio, which is the radios and tape recordings and things like that. But you can run a loop on a static television where it basically goes into the TV and it comes back out the TV into the camera, and it's just a constant loop that's going on. That's wonderful. That just a static on a TV, particularly on the old analog TVs. That's fantastic, and people have had some amazing, pieces of evidence appear in front of them on the TV, and it's just a case of ITC covers such a broad spectrum that it does cover both the bases of audio and visual.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. The thing that sort of bugs me when it comes to sort of paranormal groups using, like, you know, these visual things like the TV is the age-old story of, like, Most Haunted. We always talk about Most Haunted. They used to use the TV and it used to turn itself off. Now, if we're talking about interdimensional, you know, spirits, they're higher in intelligence. They're no longer within the vessel, so they're no longer under restraint from the vessel. So they'll do something more than just turning the TV off. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, in terms of, I'm going to, right. So, but my opinion on that is, if it was just, say, for instance, the four of us, you know, and we were there and we were asking for a TV for them to affect that TV. Now, as you said, and on and on off, that's quite simple. Now, if we were, say, asking them to change it to, I don't know, use the Virgin remote and change it to channel 216, you know, we could physically watch those channels changing. Then, you know what I mean? That would be unbelievable, wouldn't it? It would be fantastic. But in terms of public things and particularly TV things, we can't take any of that on face value. None of it whatsoever. But as you said, if it was a personal thing, now I once saw the dial on a radio turning after we'd asked it to turn. Now, do you know what I mean? No, that's only ever happened once. I've never really seen poltergeist activity in terms of that. That was with my own eyes in front of me in the daytime. Now, things have moved, bloody hell, hundreds of times for us, but it's always in the dark. You know, it's, you know, and you never see them move. Or you have the other way where you hear things move, and when you turn the lights on, they haven't moved.
There's also the thing of like telekinesis with smoke, particularly with smoke and water, where the power of suggestion, where if you will it and will it and will it, and there's that, again, the collective thought of consciousness, and enough people want that thing to move, the energy's there, the theory's there that it can move because of mind power alone.
Yeah.
So it's also the flip side, isn't it, of the argument as well.
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree. When you talk about peak energy, what was you going to say, Ben?
Yeah. So I was going to say from the electromagnetic field, it's been proven that your body can emit an EM pulse that will move things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was a study into it, and it was all to do with PK energy that we create through the power of thought.
Yeah. And also, I read a study when I was looking at traditional scrying. To do, but it linked on to, the fog machines, when people use fog machines, and it is also that you will project into that smoke what you want to see, or it will be an image of your inner self will be revealed in that smoke. So when people say, oh, I can see a man and he looks evil, but from the history of that place and from the hauntings, there's never really been anything evil there, that person is projecting their own personal vibrational thoughts. So if they're having a bad day or they're naturally very downbeat, the projection in that smoke will be there in a projection of self as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100% agree with that. Definitely. Right, so we're going to go to a short ad break, and then when we come back afterwards, we're going to be talking about modernising the paranormal, and something that Kay brought up on a post on Facebook, on one of our posts on Facebook. So we'll be back just after this short little ad break.
Pulse Talk Radio, the place to come for talk shows about the paranormal. Sponsored by the Psychic Clinic, empowering self-healing. thepsychicclinic.com.
Do you enjoy the Other Dimension show? Do you want more from the boys? Do you need that one more show? Well, have we got a treat for you? Head over to www.patreon.com and become an official patron of the show. For just £3 a month you get a weekly bonus episode. This bonus episode can only be heard on Patreon by the true ODDs, so don't miss out. www.patreon.com/The Other Dimension and sign up today.
And we're back on the other side. Now, don't forget, guys, we have the Patreon up and running now. So if you want to become an official true ODD and you want to sort of join in and help support the show, head over to patreon.com/The Other Dimension, sign up, and you get a bonus episode show every week where me and Ben go deep. I mean, talking about deep down the rabbit hole. Now, on the other side now, I want to talk about, Kay mentioned about how nowadays the paranormal has sort of changed with the influence of Hollywood and sort of these amateur shows, and Craig mentioned about bringing his ITC to the modern, but he's still using like a 1970s radio, but he's sort of bringing it up into the modern day and age where you sort of incorporate crystals. I mean, what's your guys' view on how the paranormal state is nowadays, how Facebook has changed things, how YouTube has changed things, and how these new modern technologies have sort of changed things?
Yeah, just in the time that I've been doing it, in the 20 years, there's been a huge change in terms of the paranormal. I mean, we probably all started in the same place, where we may have had an interest in the paranormal, like I did from a young child, but that was due to growing up in a haunted house.
Yeah.
But for most people, it more than likely started with watching Most Haunted on the TV. Now,
100%.
Yeah. Now, at the beginning, I was one of those people. I travelled. I hate to say it now. I travelled to numerous places to go to their live events. I was at their first live event at Dudley Castle. And and you know what? It was fantastic, and I met Derek and stuff. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And then, we've met a few people who worked for them. And just by watching it with all the experience that we have now, the Most Haunted that is on now is completely different to the one that we watched before. And that was 100% as a result of what we all know can happen, where we can have a place from 7 at night till 3 in the morning, and we might not get one thing, and as hosts, it's the hardest thing in the world, because you've normally got 15, 20 people there who have all watched Most Haunted, and they've all watched Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters International and all that kind of stuff, where they watch in 1 hour what some paranormal investigators haven't even experienced in a lifetime of investigating. Now, they can sometimes be there for 3-4 days, maybe 7 days, and they condense all of that into a 45-minute show, and it's going to look amazing. There are going to be things flying around and banging and EVPs and stuff like that, and they will be constant. But I think what's happened is it has literally gone from paranormal investigations to places where people just sometimes go just for a laugh. And that's when that's the major division between the paranormal investigations and ghost hunts. So myself and Kay, we will pay the hundreds of pounds to have places such as the Ancient Ramp to ourselves, so it's just the two of us. Now, if it's full-on paranormal investigation, it's experiments, it's the way that we like to investigate, but it's just a whole different kettle of fish when you're talking in terms of the public ghost hunts. And I think it is a shame of the way that it's gone, and it's gone very ego-led, it's gone very personality-led.
Image. So you have to think as well that it is a television program, so these people, these personalities are going to have an image, a public image, and they do have to sell. So unfortunately, like the rest of us who go out as nice people without the egos and without the chips on the shoulders, just to work with people, and we're all, at the end of the day, the flip side is we all are aiming for the same thing. And unfortunately, with the way the media's pushed the paranormal industry, if you haven't got that chip and you aren't going to be nasty, then unfortunately, you won't get anywhere. And then there's, week in, week out, there are groups across the country working really hard to get justifiable evidence, documenting it. I've got fantastic YouTube channels, fantastic evidence, and they will never get a sniff because they haven't got that notoriety, or they haven't trodden on people to get notoriety. And it's such a shame.
I think another thing with that is the exact same piece of evidence can be provided by 2 separate people, and it could be a local, two-man team who go out because they love the paranormal. They go out every Friday. They self-fund everything. They go. They can get the same piece of evidence as somebody. Zach Bagans, for instance, he could get that same piece of evidence. No one would believe the 2 local people from round by us in Warsaw, but they'll believe Zach Bagans because he's a celebrity on the TV. And I think it's horrendous the way that the whole industry is at the moment, and it's just such a shame. It's a real crying shame for the love of it, for the people who do it, because they have a genuine passion.
100%.
That's how it's going a lot of times though now, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately.
I mean, Ben, we've got Mystics on next week, who are a young team who are trying to do things differently from other teams that are out there now. And this show...
they've abandoned me.
Go on, mate.
Literally. I've been abandoned by them. I was on vacation with them. They've literally abandoned me. I'm in the middle of a wood by myself.
Oh dear.
Oh no, don't worry. Don't bother Ben. He was raised by rabid demons, so he'll be all right. I was saying, like, this show, it gives a voice to these younger teams, to these less experienced teams, to the teams that don't have that sort of, like you were saying, that Zach Bagans status. And that's what I think. But another theory of mine is this theory of autosuggestion. I mean, everybody talks about the paranormal I mean, if you're going to a location now, you can go and search on YouTube or look at other teams on Facebook. You already know it's going to be there. So this whole factor of auto-suggestion plays in everything we do nowadays, especially in the paranormal world.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
It really does. And I think that's why we do it as well. You have to try and find those places. And it's very, very hard to go into somewhere. Well, I will always go into a place open-minded, regardless of whether I've been there before. I will always go in there open-minded, and if nothing happens, nothing happens.
Yeah.
And I won't. I will go in there, and maybe for the first half of the night, we will not call out to the normal spirits, to the ones that everyone knows. We will not. That's our little golden rule, that we will not call out to those spirits. We always open up to any new spirits that wish to come through, or anybody who's the forgotten people,
or the shame. You know, there's been a hanging or witchcraft, or there's been a crime, and we always try and give a voice to the spirits, that what people call the unsavoury side sometimes, because it has to be. I find it such a shame that there could be voices that haven't been heard, and then you just give those voices that they're almost trodden over every time for the popularity, like you said, of suggestion. And we try and pull out the organic stories that are there without having to go through all the, you know.
But that just comes with experience. That does.
Yeah,
it's but as you said, Damon, the problem is you will go into a place, and because everybody has been seeing Bob, who makes bangs and taps, as soon as you go in there, for people who go in there, they will automatically say, they'll hear a tap or a bang, and they will say, "Oh, that's Bob," you know. And we try not to do that. It's very hard. It's harder to do when you're with people. But that's more of a reason why, you know, Kay and myself have gone off, freelance, and we work. Well, we don't particularly work with anybody anymore. We just we get invited to places, which is fantastic. And and you know, and we go in there, and I will always run my little ITC experiments. And most of the time, I go off on my own and do them.
I mean, that's the thing, though. It's about doing your own thing and not copying everyone else. And it brings me on to my next subject. Something that me and Ben talk about all the time is the people out there that are practicing the paranormal unsafely. The people that go out there and think they can do a Ouija board because their favourite YouTuber has, or they think they can do a table tipping exercise because they've seen it done on Most Haunted or on Ghost Adventures or on Taps. I mean, the amount of cases that me and Ben have to deal with where people have opened a Ouija board because they've seen somebody else doing it is crazy. I mean, Ben, how many cases do we get from people that don't know how to use Ouija boards properly?
It's a regular number, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got to be about 20 a week, something like that.
100%. And 9 times out of 10, honestly, Ben, it's people that have gone, well, I thought I'd done it right because I said goodbye, and that's what they done on the telly. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's the same, like, I find with people with the mediumship, they buy a tarot deck and they do one reading for themselves out of a book, and suddenly they're a medium, and it drives me nuts. And you can't say anything because it's each to their own, but it's very similar with any equipment, isn't it? And anything that you're working with any energy. And
it's, you know, it's the same with the ITC. It's the same with the pieces of kit. It's, you have people out there who are doing these, like, you know, experiments and whatnot, and then me being me, I will say to them, "Oh, how does that work?" I don't know. Well, what's it up?
I don't know.
I don't. Well, why is that flashing red? Because it means that there's a spirit nearby. Well, how is that detecting that there's a spirit nearby? Well, a spirit has just picked it up, you know. And then I'll go into the thing of, well, we're not actually looking for a spirit to pick it up, are we? We're looking for them to change the environment around that piece of kit. Yeah, and exactly. They go, no. It's picking up because somebody's picking it up. You're like, mate, it's not. Trust me, I take these apart and I build my own versions of them. I know them inside out. You know, it's hard.
So
that's the same as we've just had with mystics. I won't mention certain names because you know what I'm like when it comes to demonics and stuff. And they were quoting information on something they picked up off the internet.
Yeah.
And they were quoting it wrong, but I was the bugger that wrote the information a couple of years ago. I was the one that did the study.
Goodness.
Quality.
Goodness.
That's brilliant.
You know, Damon know who I'm on about, because let's just say they were on about that. They said, well, this person's supposed to be a mimic. And I was like, yes, I'm the one that wrote the paper on that.
Yeah. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Well, Craig, I'm gonna come to you with this one, because this is like a thing we do on the show, and I've already said my opinion on it. But what's your opinion on? You know, what I'm gonna say, Brendan, phone apps, paranormal phone apps. What is your opinion on it?
It's a tricky one, because I think word generators, random word generators, I think they're a load of tosh. I genuinely do, because
100%.
it doesn't matter where you go, it will pump out the same names on a regular basis, almost on a loop, almost. You know, and in there you will have the traditional, standard run, get out, haunted, demon. You'll have church, spirit, scared, knife. You know what I mean? You'll have that standard type of thing. Definitely. So random word generators, in terms of the text that comes up, I think they're just a load of rubbish. I genuinely do. In terms of there's only two phone apps which I've ever used, which I've put in hundreds and hundreds of hours of using them, and I do genuinely believe that when they're used properly, just exactly the same way as an SB7 or your REM pod, or like my Valve radio, for instance, if they're used enough by that person, I think that it's not so much the phone app, it could almost be your phone, for instance. Yeah. It's taking that much energy from you, and you're imprinting on that device every day. Now, I believe that spirits are able to communicate with you, and they do use it as another form of ITC. Yeah. Now, so for instance, necrophonic, I personally think that necrophonic does work. Right. Now, there's what's it called? Spiritus. Now, that is a standard loop, and that is from hundreds of hours of using that app and making notes of when it says this and when it says that. And after a while, you can work out what's going to come next. Yeah. So that one is rubbish. But necrophonic,
we've had some amazing.
We have had some absolutely unbelievable responses where we will stand there and we will say, right, we're going to ask a question now, and we will say, for instance, I don't know, how old was the spirit in this house when they passed away? And then I will press start, and so many times the first thing that comes out of that is a number. Now, I've used it, and I know that the chances of getting a number, I mean, mainly the first time that you turn it on for a number to come through first is very, very, very low. Now, we run that same experiment often, and we get roughly the same results, where it doesn't matter what question we ask, we will get a clear, almost class A, response. So for me, that is the only one that will work, but I think that it will only work after working with it and after hundreds of hours of running that same app on the same phone with the same person. Yeah. So almost as if like it's not being used as equipment, it's used as an extension of yourself. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. It's like my SB7. My SB7 will work for me fantastically. Now, we go on events and I will hold that SB7 and we will get stuff coming through, like down some World War II tunnels in Liverpool, for instance. Nothing down there whatsoever. We were probably 100 feet below ground, no transmissions down there whatsoever, yet I was getting people talking and answering us clearly through the SB7. I gave the SB7 to someone else and it was dead. Now, nothing came through. They gave it back to me and it starts to work again. Now, that goes against me sometimes because people say, well, it's obviously you're doing it. And anyone who uses the SB7, they know that you can't do that. It's impossible. But that is through the fact that, you know, I was using that SB7 every day, every single weekend, on a weekend for probably 2-3 hours at a time. You know, and I do believe that that goes all the way back to, you know, Marcelo Bacci with the radio. You know, he was the medium. He was the reason why that radio was working. You know, and he would walk away and no one else could get those things. And I do think that that's the same with necrophonic. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about equipment as an extension of the body, I mean, that sort of makes sense. But
yeah,
apps working off their own back, I mean, I've already said it, and I'll say it every single week on this show. If anyone wants to sort of tell me that these apps work off their own back, I'll fight them for charity, straight up.
I agree. I 100% agree. I really do.
I mean, Ben, what do you think on that? Do you think that apps and equipment can be an extension of our bodies and our energy?
I think if used right, yes. I'm still jury's out, as I always say, on the apps.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
I think with equipment, yeah, because you can like you were just saying, you can adapt it with your own electromagnetic field of your body, which subconsciously then you are bringing it into your energy field, which we know spirits can manipulate.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I've had four now. 4 people actually want to fight me for charity because of this app thing. So I'm going to take up Karma Gra. So yeah,
I'll do it. I'll stand in your place.
Hey, no, I've got to learn to fight my own battles. It's all good.
I'll just supply you with equipment then.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the saber. You can bring out the saber. I mean, when it comes to what you guys do, man, I've seen Lifting the Veil, and it's pretty much amazing. The stuff that you do it blows my mind. I mean, I've sort of moved away from the whole spirit communication sort of thing and sort of trying to get on with my studies into demonology and the slight little dusting of occultology that Ben offers. But what you guys do Lifting the Veil is it's brilliant. I mean, what's the best sort of message you've got through? It's one that sort of literally blew your mind.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you ask anybody, any of the regulars on each week, I'm 100% sure that they will agree with this. We had a male come through who Kay was picking up actually in the house, and actually you explain because you're yeah.
So I'd had an hour before I had a tummy ache. So I don't always put everything down to, oh my goodness, it's spirit, because I could have eaten something, could just be stress. So I thought nothing of it. And gradually this pain was in my left-hand side and it was becoming a really bad stabbing pain. And I was making a cup of tea and I took some painkillers and thought, right, I'll be fine in an hour, the experiment will start. It never went away. We turned the box on and then there was a voice on the box. And then I started talking to the voice on the box and said, you're the spirit that's affecting me. Why? And at the time, I got the vision of somebody being stabbed with a glass bottle where I was experiencing the pain, and this pain was getting hotter and hotter, and my guide couldn't remove the pain, and it was clear that until they'd got their message through, they weren't taking that pain of the bottle being shattered and stabbed. Story went along that I picked up on the fact that there'd been a bar fight, that they'd smashed the bottle and stabbed the young lad with the bottle, and he just wanted to say that it wasn't fair, it wasn't him, it was a case of mistaken identity. At the same time, the box is running and I say the name of the person and it says yes, and then we get an actual direct conversation of
so where were you, and it says pub. Everybody's hearing it, so everybody's hearing this live, and the actual the feed is filling up with people saying that man just answered with pub. Now it was the same voice over and over, so we know it was the same person. And it basically said, "Where were you?" It's a pub, and we then says, "Okay, and so what happened?" And the same voice said, "Stabbed." And we said, "Well, okay." So I'm now thinking, right, this is the same person. Everybody's heard the story from Kay. So I thought, right, I'm going to change this slightly. Says, okay then. So what was in the thing that you were stabbed with? Thinking, if it's just going to give me a random, knife, then we can say, oh well, it's just, it's just an ongoing thing which we're picking up on something else. And I says, okay then. So what was in the thing that you were stabbed with? And it turns out, and it basically replied to us and said, beer. So everybody is hearing this, and the page is filling up with all this kind of stuff. And then I says, okay. I said, so you were stabbed with beer? And he just turns around and it goes, no, bottle. So it was. I've got goosebumps saying it now. It was
crazy.
It was unbelievable. And as quick as that had come, Kay's pain had gone away, and we never heard the man's voice again.
We also had the instance of we had a lady who was in the process of crossing over. So she was at a hospital, and the voice came through. Everyone was hearing, help me, somebody whispering. So we managed to kind of clear back the noise and listen to her. And she was actually at that moment in time, whether people choose to believe it or not, in her hospital bed, choosing if she was going to go with the person stood at the end of her bed. And she was asking, do I go? And the moment we encouraged her, look, do what you need to do. And the voice was going for a while, wasn't it? And she was going backwards and forwards in between talking to other people. Yeah. And then when I went back to the other spirits, was, is she there? The reply was, gone. Where's she gone? Light.
Yeah.
What? So, was this a woman that was... She was in hospital?
She'd been in hospital, and she'd obviously left the physical vessel. She was already in spirit. She just didn't want to kind of leave that room and go through. If we imagine, some people say doorway, some people say, they go out the window. Wherever she was going to go to her place of rest, she was hanging about because she was unsure whether she could trust what she was seeing.
Wow, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's we have had some unbelievable responses on there. It's just it's mind-blowing sometimes. It's like, there's a belief that on the other side, as I said, there are things which we call operators, so technicians on the other side. They're sat on their end with their radio transmitter, whatever they're using on the other side to speak to us. And you can hit, like, I will always ask the same questions, as I said, and I'll always say, where are you? Where are you? What are you doing? How are you speaking to us? Do you think that we're dead or alive? And we came to a conclusion where sometimes you won't get that answer, and it's almost like someone does answer. Yes. And when they do answer, you can hear someone, and all of a sudden, with the same level of voices, someone will shout. And it's almost like the technician or the operator is turning around and almost saying, well, you shut up, you're not supposed to be telling them. And everyone can hear it. Everyone can hear it live on a Friday night, and people are just amazed by it. And even that now, that will still blow my mind when that happens. And that's it's
crazy.
It is. It's absolutely. I've been doing it for such a long time, and certain things don't surprise me anymore. But the audio ITC, it blows my mind. Every time that we do Lifting the Veil, it just blows my mind a little bit more.
Yeah.
See,
definitely.
It's funny you say that, because in cultology and demonology, you've got what's known as the gatekeepers, which are the people that help connect.
Yeah.
I've got something that might help you guys out a bit more with that communication to get them to open up and work a bit more with you.
Wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, like I said, it's just fascinating every week. Just even for me, and that's my day to day.
Yeah, and you're very obviously spiritual, aren't you?
Yeah, but even for me, it just blows my mind to think that there's a whole operation going on that side.
It's a lot bigger than you think.
Yeah, absolutely. We're tiny in
100%.
comparison to everything.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean, I can sit here and talk about this all day, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. But for all the listeners out there that have enjoyed it tonight, you will catch a bonus show over on the Patreon. We're going to get Kay and Craig on there. We're going to sort that out. But yeah, Kay, Craig, brilliant guests. Really could literally sit and talk about this all night.
If anybody's interested as well, I've got a psychic night at the Gospel Oak in Tipton. There are 12 tickets left. So if anybody's interested, contact the Gospel Oak. And if you're interested in reading a bit more, this is a massive kind of, you've got the exclusive on this day, but I haven't even put it on my page. I'm going to be in the September edition of Chat It's Fake magazine, talking about my work with the stores. So 100%. That will be out the 3rd or the 4th of August, but it'll be the September issue. So if anybody's interested, just have a read and contact me via the page.
Definitely. We're going to be sticking that up on the Other Dimension Paranormal page on Facebook.
Thank you.
Let the guys know when and how they can watch Lifting the Veil.
So Lifting the Veil is every other Friday on my page, Kay Maloney, clairsentient medium and meditation practitioner. I always pop the lives up. If you go into the page, you will see events and it will be on the lives, and literally click the interested bell or going, and then you will get the notification as we go live. So it's 9 p.m. every other Friday. Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, once again, fantastic guest. Ben?
Thank you.
Yep.
Are you still stuck on the side of a hill somewhere?
No, I've escaped the hole. I'm just trying to find my way through the woods back to him. I can hear him. I just can't see him. The sun's starting to set.
Oh, dearie me.
Well, yeah, it will be. This might be my final show.
Yeah.
Next time I speak, it'll be for a Ouija board.
Oh, 100%.
Come through the ITC.
Definitely. But, guys, really enjoyed the show. Don't forget, head over patreon.com/The Other Dimension. This show will be uploaded on there. Also, you can catch this show on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts, whether that's Apple, Spotify, Spreaker. It's going to be available everywhere. It's going to be uploaded, ready for you for your Monday morning, for your stroll into work, for you to listen to. But once again, I want to thank Kay and Craig for coming on the show. You've been great guests.
It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Absolute.
Okay. Don't forget, guys, remember, there's always that other dimension.
For joining us on this journey into the world of the paranormal. Don't forget, if you missed the show, it will be available on our podcast. Just search The Other Dimension wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If you have any questions about the show, or you wish to contact the show with your own experiences, just head over to the Facebook group at www.facebook.com/TOD Paranormal.